Another Power Pack pancake, just about ready. Just flipped it, and should be ready in a minute. Beautiful sunny morning. Looks like it's going to be a nice drying day, which we need after that rain yesterday. Well, there's a stiff breeze. It doesn't look like by the waves, but I can hear it in the trees. The wind's going to be against me the whole way. But you take what you can get. I'll take the blue sky. Okay, that Power Pack pancake looks like it's just about ready to be slathered with raspberry jam. And time to refill the hot coffee too. This is all wild rice that my canoe is blowing through. Wild rice flowers. I'm standing up here paddling, using my whitewater stick here because it's shallow and I'm banging rocks. Although this is it opened up here, less rocks. There's your classic black spruce swamp in behind there. On either side, with some tamarack in there as well. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. Those lighter green trees in the foreground are tamarack. Yeah, I stand up a lot in creeks. You can see down and avoid rocks. And this is a 34-inch beam boat. And spread your feet and it's pretty stable. I just lined this channel, hopping boulder to boulder, keeping my feet dry, and played out my bow line and kind of guided the canoe with the bow line and holding the gunnels. It's not a strong current, but and then let the boat go, jumping on this boulder here, and then let the boat go with the full play of the line, and then it pivoted around, and then I front ferried it over with the rope. And here it is. Dry feet, even though they're wet from previous days. Now I've heard stories that the old timers who were using these waterways a lot more frequently, they were making a living on these waterways, that they brought crowbars with them and they crowbarred out channels for their canoes. And when I see this, I believe that that's what the rest of the channel looks like. That's remarkable. It's the width of a canoe, basically, or a canoe and a half. Well, I got a little issue here. That's the creek there. It's all jammed in. It flows through rocks and cedar, so that the map says there's a 215 meter portage here. Problem is, I've been crashing the bush everywhere. There is no trail. There's no blazes. There's no marking tape. There's nothing. Luckily, it's not that too bad of a bushwhack to the put-in. I got to walk through a spruce swamp here and then hit a bit of a rock ridge and then hook around and dodge some blowdown. It's going to be interesting with the canoe. I haven't got enough time to saw every log in my way. Probably have to throw the canoe off, drag it over under logs and throw it back on, etc. Well, I made it to the other end of the bushwhack. There's actually a cut piece of wood there, and I found another one down in the dirt, but No trail, that's the one I improvised. Oh, man, I wasted 2 hours on this that I can't afford. Looks like weather coming in. And I'm in a portage trap. There's no campsites. I gotta keep going. Oh, and picture of tired canoe camper on day 7 or 8, I forget now. I'll have to check my journal tonight. I think it's day 8. That's right, day 8. This is typical of some of this route's landings. There's the trail. It needs a little brushing out. It's just full of rocks. There's an underwater rock there, log, but it's just, you can't get a boat in here. It's just totally sealed off with rocks. So this is what I've been doing. You just go down the shore a bit and you punch through the alders. I mean, these alders were all like this and crisscrossed. I had to force them back. I got the boat there and it's all vegetation. I'm sliding it in. Wild rice as far as I can see. Which is nice to see, but paddling through this is a slog. It slows everything way down to about half or a third speed. Well, I decided to take an early campsite. I had an unexpected portage and bushwhack today that ate up a couple hours extra that I wasn't budgeting for today. So I thought I'd show you around this interesting site. As you can see, it's in a wide, slow-moving part of the river. River is generous, it's a creek. But big shallow area of wild rice. Spectacular stand of it. And on the shore here, there's piles of goose droppings and feathers. And there's goose poop everywhere. And I mean everywhere around the water. Goose poop, goose poop, goose poop. And it's on the rocks, and of course, that's all washing in to my drinking water supply. So it's probably a soup of E. coli and everything else in there, which is what I always try to never camp by, but I'm stuck here. I'll just have to deal with it. I like camping in big, clear lakes, obviously. So does everybody. Okay, but what's interesting about this site is it appears to be very well used. There's old scars on this snapped off jack pine. These saw-offs are really old. And there's lots of scars on trees of people hacking at them, trimming branches. And I think this is, again, one of the traditional rice camps and waterfowl hunting camps, probably of the people from Mishkogogoming or Osnaburg House. So this is an upriver jaunt for them, but I've shown you a camp or a rice harvesting equipment further up the system, so they came up here quite regularly. But the waterfowl hunting would be spectacular. the waterfowl eat the rice grains, but they during this time of year they also eat the plants, or at least the geese do. I picked the site from my tent back there that's flat, and it looks like Phil Cotton and the Wabikimi project have been here because there's one of their signature fire pits with the cap rock that makes a roof. Now that's not my preferred style. I'll get a couple rocks and rig my Purcell trench grill across there. But the double log seat, which is one of their signature things. This is beaver chew. I've shown this on some of my winter videos. Where there's no birch, there's no poplar anywhere. There may have been after the last forest fire about 100 years ago, but now the beaver are kind of starving, and they gain some nutrients by stripping the bark low down on these jack pine. All right, time to get camp set up, get some wood, get some water boiling so I can drink, because it's a toxic soup out there of goose poo, and get some hot water to wash those socks. This is just back of my campsite here. This is post old growth boreal, which is not very old. This is all even age, came in after a fire. You can tell from all the jack pine in the stand, and actually there's not much left because a lot of it's down on the ground. The longer living black spruce, which comes in at the same time as the fire, or underneath and then shoots up in the gaps, is here, but it's falling down as well. I can't walk and look at the viewfinder at the same time here. The ground is full of ankle breakers and knee rippers. Yep, this is what post old growth looks like, and old growth sets in around 90 years here. And for jack pine, they're all down by pretty well 120. They start coming down en masse between 100 and 120, and the black spruce will hang longer, but that's black spruce. It's all rotting and coming down as well. Look at the gaps in the canopy. So this forest here was all born in a single fire event. It's all even aged. There's young, there's some balsam fir coming up, and there's some young spruce coming up. But it's essentially an even age. It will turn uneven aged and mixed, perhaps, or a balsam fir spruce mix if it doesn't burn. But it'll also get shrub rich, like with the birch seedlings coming in like that. Yeah, it needs a good hot forest fire to clean this up and reset it. I'll tell you though, the wood supply is pretty easy to get here for camp firewood. You can't just run through the boreal forest here. There's just holes and pockets and leg breakers everywhere. Tonight what I got cooking is I got dehydrated chicken and dehydrated mushrooms, dehydrated olives, dehydrated onions, lots of olive oil, and some garlic powder. And when that's almost ready, if I can find it here, I'm going to add dehydrated wild rice, which is kind of fitting because out there is a wild rice bed. So I cooked the wild rice at home and dehydrated and rehydrates in about 5 minutes. So when that regular rice is done, or close to it, I'll throw in the wild rice and it'll be good. And the finished product. Seasoned, of course, with, at the end, with Tex-Mex.